The Search Podcast USA Edition series is sponsored by Ascen. Ascen is a top employer of record in North America that exclusively helps staffing and recruitment agencies hire contractors compliantly throughout the US and Canada. Ascen's all-in-one white-label platform handles onboarding, timesheets, payroll, benefits, insurance, invoicing, and optional financing so you can grow quickly in the US and Canada. Start growing your staffing agency in the US today with Ascen. Visit us at ascen.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Search Podcast. I'm Elliott Manning, the Managing Director of Cayman Recruitment Group. This week's podcast episode on the search is a little bit different. Obviously, for the guests, everyone that listens to this and sees it, we usually interview founders of recruitment companies and we talk about their journeys and successes and differences and nuances and everything to do with the US market and how they see things and what's going on over there, whether they're in the UK or US or, most recently in South Africa, which we've changed it up a little bit. So we've gone to a different direction in this instance. I've brought someone in that I have worked with as a client, a recruitment founder who is very well known on the West Coast. However, has gone into a little bit more of a different direction in terms of, I suppose, focuses in terms of tech products. But rather than me tell you too much about it, I'll let him take away a bit of an introduction on himself.
Elliott, great to see you, mate. Thanks for having me on. And and also thanks for the intro. So I guess a little bit more on me and what I've been up to in recruiting. So been in recruiting for 10 years. It's all I've done after graduating college back at UCLA in 2016. Started out in GQR, worked at the famous GQR office in LA for a couple of years, which was awesome. Also, a splash of cold water over the face after, going to class at 10 a.m. with my iced coffee to cold calling at 7 a.m. So that was awesome, great training. And I've been running my own agency in venture for about 7 or 8 years now. And that's kind of been the bulk of our focus. We started out in private equity, pivoted into renewables, grew like a really healthy business, did about 14 million in revenue, maintaining a kind of a 25-30% EBIT all the way through that journey. But further to your points, we've taken a bit of a pivot in the last kind of 6 months or so. And there's 2 projects that we're working on right now. They're quite symbiotic, but one is Generate, which is ultimately a platform for entrepreneurial recruiters to kind of take that step in their own personal journey. And then an AI software application that we've built specifically for recruiters in this kind of like the mid-funnel area. I can talk in a lot of detail about those 2 things, but they have a shared mission and it's just been an epic journey over the last kind of 6 months bringing those things to life. So yeah.
So I guess the first question is, and I'm sure people are thinking, it's like, why, where, what, how, why? Like, you was obviously so focused and still are with Inventure, which has been doing phenomenally well. Did you just sit there one day and just decide just going to do something different? Where did this come from?
Yeah. So I wish there was like this dramatic story where, one day all of a sudden, but really, me and my co-founder, Charlie Rollings, we're always big on listening to the podcasts and reading the LinkedIn posts and the news and all this kind of stuff. And I think there were 2 things that kind of started this discussion to begin with. The first one was, I think anyone that's in recruiting can see that there's a new recruitment company that pops up all the time. It's in America, an industry with 26,000 agencies, and it's already ridiculously fragmented. But more and more people are kind of realizing that their own personal name and the character of their and the knowledge and the skills that they have, that's what's winning clients instead of the companies that they stand behind, in a lot of cases. And then like the access to technology, technology is getting cheaper and it's becoming more accessible. And so I think it's these 2 things that are causing that. And then if you look at America more broadly, 52% of Americans would consider themselves either an entrepreneur or meaningfully entrepreneurially employed. And if you look at recruiting, for those 2 things I just mentioned before, I don't really think there's an industry that's more entrepreneurial than recruiting. So although it's 26,000 agencies today, it was basically our prediction through looking at the data that it's going to be more like 100,000 agencies in 5 years, because more and more people will realize they have the skills, they have the knowledge, and they have the desire to work in a bit more of an autonomous way. What am I kind of waiting for? And so we had really two choices. We thought, continue to build an agency for scale and get headcount going and kind of just have our little corner of the market, or scratch the entrepreneurial itch and build the infrastructure for what we believe to be the sort of the next generation of where recruitment's going. And we put pen to paper and built Generate, which, you know, in our point of view, is the most logical, most seamless kind of first step that you can take as a potential entrepreneur. And there's many different ways that we can spin that out. So yeah.
So Generate in itself, so for us, where we have a Rectorate business in the US, we talk to lots of recruiters that are on a draw system, or they are on commission only, or they're just spilling so much money that, you know, it kind of makes sense for them to go on their own. And look, US, as you know and say, is one of the most entrepreneurial countries, you know, out there, you know, in terms of what people want to do, especially you look at the tech world and how many products are being developed every day. So there's a lot of recruiters that I know of and speak to that are sitting there saying, I might as well, I'm going to go and do this for myself. You know, I'm just going to go and open up my own agency. But then what they can do with you guys, with Generate, is basically have a platform in place that allows them to, you know, have the infrastructure there and the support, but ultimately without the additional cost element to it, that they can concentrate on the one thing that they're good at, which is billing, right?
Yeah, spot on. And you know, I think on top of that, when someone takes that first step and becomes an entrepreneur as a recruiter, like, first of all, the first step's incredibly daunting. So like the admin, the paperwork, the legal, getting the tech contracts, multi-year agreements, office leases, like all this stuff, it seems intimidating. Healthcare, like it's a lot to deal with that first step. So that's, of course, one thing that, of course, we offer. But then even if you make it through that, I think another pain point that people have is it's quite isolating. And they're not being pushed because they're not on a sales floor anymore, and they might see their mates, you know, posting, or you know, for example, the Recruit Hub platform, brilliant platform. They have like their annual awards and things like that. But people, they miss that kind of competition on a day to day, and then also they miss, like, from a first principle standpoint, the commercial collaboration. So if you have an overflow of jobs as an entrepreneur, you're like, well, I can kind of reach out to a bunch of strangers and see if they can work my jobs. And on the flip side, like maybe you're a young entrepreneur, maybe 2-3 years, it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to build my book right now. I need more jobs. So we also designed Generate, apart from doing all of the headache stuff, to be this kind of buzzy network of people that can collaborate commercially and compete with each other, because there's that kind of trust between one another as Generate recruitment partners.
Yeah. Are people like sharing jobs on there and working together in that community where they've got access to each other's, you know, not networks as such, but they can kind of job share and open up other doors within that area?
Yeah. So the database is modular. So everybody's database is something that they can only see. However, the contract with Generate is B2B. So we're not the agency. We don't own their client relationships. They own those relationships. And then we also have templates for B2B agreements among brokers or recruitment partners, so that people can work together in a B2B way. And it takes like 2 seconds. Like, oh, hey, Elliott, just send you the contract. I need some help. And then, of course, there's all the normal channels. We've got like the Slacks and the emails and all that kind of stuff, so that we can identify which people we know will organically want to work together.
Yeah.
Hey, Seb, I've got this AI founding engineer position. Do you know anyone that can help me out? Yeah, I know Bob. Let me just put you guys in touch. So that's, I mean, we're early. We launched in January, but there's already been like 4 or 5 collaborations that have happened in that time period.
Fantastic. And all your people, the members that are joining, are they based in a certain location? Because you guys obviously on the West Coast. Are you seeing that there's traction across the United States with people from all over?
So far, there's not really a theme. We've got a couple people in New Jersey, quite a few people in New Jersey. We've got some people in Texas, all over Texas. So it's all over the country at the moment.
Yeah, fantastic. So is this kind of like where the idea for Millee came about, where you noticed that there was a gap or something missing in the process, or was this something separate that you knew you were going to do and kind of went different directions on pathways with them?
Yeah, so Millee, the software tool I mentioned, basically in the process of building Generate, we said, all right, this time, you know, the one big learning lesson, or not the one big learning lesson, but a big idea was like, okay, we want to build prop tech for this business. We want something that is unique to Generate as a platform. So we thought to ourselves, like, how would that software look? What part of recruitment right now do we feel like is a little bit ineffective? So the idea started out as like, this is prop tech for Generate. But as we built the product and we invested a lot of money, we invested a lot of engineering power and time and all this kind of stuff. As we brought the product to life and I started to surface it to some of the other entrepreneurs in my network, they were like, mate, this tool's like pretty good. Like you should get some money behind it and sell this as a tool to the market because it's needed, and and B, it's a good business. So go for it. And I guess in the thought process of building Millee, like there's so many. Well, if you look since 2022, since AI basically was adopted, since then, I personally think that an already in some cases ineffective recruitment market, people placing about 25% of committed searches, has become in many ways more ineffective. People are spending about 85% of their money right now on lead generation tools.
Yeah.
And the result of that has been us losing about 30% of our market share to in-house. I think that on average, we're not placing enough of the jobs that we have, and we're trying to solve that problem by buying more and more and more leads. It's like, I'm a crap golfer, let's just take more swings and hopefully I'll get better, right? So Millee's primary mission is very simply to help people close more of the deals that they have within their CRM. And the way it does that, I can get into the details of the way the product works, but that's the overall vision and how it came to life.
But Millee, and I'm not sure if you've kind of just touched on this, but it'd be good to understand, like, is it AI generated in terms of like, it's AI driven rather?
Exactly. So it's not going to replace a CRM or anything like that. It's basically a tool that backs into your CRM, and it looks at all of your inputs. So your emails, your calls, all of the note, like everything that you're doing with your candidates and clients, it's taking from those notes. It runs it through basically our corpus of knowledge. We've gained about 10 million tokens from just like 4 or 5 years of working with mentors, writing down, very intricate processes. If a candidate does this, then this is, all these kind of things. So it takes those inputs, it runs it through this corpus of knowledge, and then it gives you actionable outputs in the forms of emails, transcripts, action plans, and like deal health scores. And there's various other kind of things. And then there's also a network intelligence layer. So it's going to look at those exact kind of things, but very specifically to your agency. What are your playbooks? What's working? How do you escalate when things go wrong? So that as a user, all of your team members have expert advice, not like once a day when they meet with a manager, but like 30 times a day. Every email is spot on. Every call is really well prepared for, and all this kind of stuff. And the wedge in the market here is a lot of CRMs, it's just looking at data like, hey, Elliott, it's been 6 days since you've had your interview. Here's the job description. Here's what you mentioned on the last call. Here's what we think. With us, it's taking all of your inputs and it's flowing it through basically the brain of an expert recruiter. So that if you're running an agency of 100 people, you can sleep easy at night knowing that even your grads are armed with expert advice and expert kind of emails and transcripts to push deals forward instead of the classic one. Hey, Elliott, have you got a minute? I've got a candidate and I'm just wondering like how, it elevates the level of analysis and strategy that goes into those conversations. So yeah.
What's going through my mind as you're saying this, and I know you showed me it the other day and, it's incredible, but like it does drive the activity on the CRM to be where it should be, which is one of the biggest issues in the recruitment industry with recruiters updating it. But then at the same time, it's also, I suppose it's like a leadership person sitting next to them, like, 24/7, like you said, that's allowing them to kind of push things through the motions and the processes. So yeah, it's really interesting. And it also could, by the sounds of it, drive the right KPI performance as well.
Yeah. I mean, our promise and our mission really is to, it's to take the search firm average from placing 25% of their roles, 1 in 4, to more like 3 in 4. But even if it takes that number from placing 25% of your book to 35%, now take an average recruitment company in America, 10-person agency, the average is doing, about 2.3 million. If it increases it from 25 to 35%, that's a 900K increase in the amount of revenue that you're bringing in. You're not adding headcount. You're not adding more jobs and more leads, and you're spending a very small amount of money. The contract at the moment is $150 a seat a month, and you're increasing your revenue by 900K. So the big KPI that we're looking at for companies is, of course, placing more roles, but it's increasing your revenue and packing more of a punch for what you have.
Yeah. And in terms of the integrations, how does it work? Does like, I know you obviously we've spoken about the integration with CRMs. Does it have any other integrations that it, kind of, works with at all?
So it backs into your CRM. It also works with your dialers if you want it to. So if you're on like I don't know, like a Ring Central or Ring Over or any of those ones, it naturally integrates into those. But its primary source of knowledge is it's looking at your CRM and it's looking at your email. And if your CRM isn't organically pulling from your emails, it has that capability. So that's the first step. And then it's about 1 week max where we basically get into your CRM, see how your label process is, like how do you label a first interview, how do you label an offer, so that when the advice surfaces, it all correctly flows to the right, corpus of knowledge for that specific situation.
Yeah, fine. So as it stands today, you've got Generate running its path in terms of bringing on recruiters to help them with a platform. Then you've got Millee on the flip side, which is, an AI-driven technology platform that will improve, well, seems like pretty much nearly everything in terms of in a recruitment function to support recruiters.
Yeah, and it seems like, okay, that's two huge projects, right? Which is why, there's not a whole lot of free time at the moment, but loving it. But the thing is, they have a shared mission, right? Which is, I think if people, if the industry focuses more on aligning incentives, right? Not having a compensation package that doesn't incentivize like elite level performance. If we're not focusing on improving the quality of the work that we're doing, I think that as an industry, we're going to continue to bleed market share to in-house.
Yeah.
And so the mission with Generate and the mission with Millee is to empower recruiters, to give them the infrastructure so that we can retain the $650 billion market that we own right now and flourish in the future of AI instead of stay in a structure which, let's be honest, hasn't really changed since the 1980s.
No. Is that it now? Are you done with these projects? Are you kind of like, are these your main areas of focus at the minute?
We're done. Yeah. Generate and Millee. Yeah, that's of course that's enough time. I think I'll have my girlfriend break up with me if we add anything else to the quiver. But this is the focus for now. And InVenture also it's still thriving. It's an agency powered by Generate. So we've aligned incentives with those guys. They're still kicking ass in renewable energy. So yeah.
Brilliant. Wow. Look, I mean, it's incredible what you can do, and it's funny because like there's all these things in the industry that are coming out, these different tech platforms, but they're all little additions to what we are doing on a day-to-day basis. And with the hope and the ability that they do improve the quality of work and the I suppose the output that we're doing as recruiters. But even seeing what you've done with Millee and I'm excited for you to have all the integrations in place pretty soon so that we can use it for our own business. And, I can put it in place of our other recruitment companies as well so that we can get things moving. Because, the one thing that I'd love our team to be able to do with the likes of Millee is, look at basically everything that you do on a one-to-one with them on a weekly basis and looking at the data, looking at the metrics and the output. But then they can just do it themselves, which is great. And that's what you want, is to drive that performance and to drive that deliverables at the same time. It's become a very delivery-based industry right now in recruitment. Like, I feel like every company is job heavy. So now's the right time to kind of execute on that. And, you've kind of seemed like you brought it out, which I saw there wasn't a big gap between launching Generate and then bringing Millee to market. So I guess it's kind of making sure that it's coming out at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, and mate, you touched on a really important point there, which is, I think every manager, like, I mean, how many times a day, even if it's remotely, like, hey, Elliott, I've got this candidate, like, what do I do about this situation, right? But what's happened with my team using Millee is instead of having that conversation where it's like, what do I do, right? Even though you've trained them and all this kind of stuff, even if they're good recruiters, it's just muscle memory. Instead of doing that, the conversation is now, hey, Seb, I've got this candidate. They're at this stage in the process. And here are the two different strategies which I'm thinking about using to approach this. Which one do you think is going to be the most effective based on the candidate's values, right?
Yeah.
And it's just doing what AI is supposed to do, right? Which is not just throwing more data at us, but it's surfacing the information in a digestible way to allow you to take action quickly.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, already like our power user guy has done like 175 catalyzers in the last couple of months. I mean, he's taken, of course, there's a bunch of work that he's done to make this happen, but he took his billing, he's at 60K, and now he's sprinting through 100K this quarter. And I think the tool's definitely helping him get there for sure.
And for graduates and juniors, like from a training perspective and the time that goes into them. And the thing is that a lot of startups, right? And we've both been there, where you want to bring in these graduates, develop them, train them. The time that goes into it can be intense, to the point of where, like, you do start neglecting your own business, and you're juggling between the two, and you don't want your recruiters to be distracted by training and developing them. I could go on, right? And I think that from a junior perspective, you're clear to see that this could actually really, really like support them with upskilling them constantly on a day to day.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I've done the grad model, and there's always that worry of like, what emails are they sending out? Because that's your reputation on the line every time. So you have just total control of the way that they're speaking. And then taking that concept even further, right? I mean, Elliott, I know this is, a big part of your business. $150 a month for a seat. You start arming your offshore recruiters with this, and now all of a sudden you have this asset that is your training over time to be an elite recruiter for your offshore, but they can interact with your candidates that are headhunting now at like elite recruitment levels. I can go on and on about that, but you're exactly right.
Well, this is it. I mean, I manage remote teams, and for me to know that from a security, or I suppose a confidence and a comfort level, that they've got something that's giving them the direction and the support that they need. Not necessarily just from an email perspective, but driving the right deliverables and cadences and data, that like they're doing everything right. And I'm really big with data, and that's why we use, everyone's moving to all these new AI-driven CRMs and making sure that things are doing, the right way of automation, etc. And everyone lives on ChatGPT. But going back to my point, I can definitely see for myself the comfort and security, knowing that they're being driven and directed in the right way, without any kind of issues or anything kind of being I suppose thrown at them on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And then also, like, because we've talked a lot about that section, and I know I'm selling the product hard here, but the other thing as well, right, is like, Tiger Woods has 5 swing coaches, right, at the top of his game. And when you're at the top as well, like, often it's maybe it's your co-founder, and you're working in your business, right? And you've got candidates and clients, and things are always going wrong. And the average billing manager is ridiculously pushed for time. And you got to also ask yourself, like, am I totally free of any process drag? Do I always deliver not just a placement, but the number one choice candidate, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're like a retained recruiter, only retained, it's like, are you always delivering the number one option? Is it always on the time frame that you've promised? And so Millee's mission as well is for the top people to just make them improve more and more over time. And with the network intelligence, it's going to start to productize that institutional knowledge that you've kept inside your head for so long, so that you can just raise the bar with every deal you work on.
Does it learn the last question for you? Like, does it learn the individual that they're working with, to the point, like, that ChatGPT, it gets to know you, it gets to understand your, ways of working and management? Is it going to be working like that?
Yes. So basically, we have our corpus of knowledge. That's just like the core foundation. This is how to be a great recruiter. But then the network intelligence layer, right, sits on top of that, and that's bespoke to you. It's not, the system's not learning from your knowledge and sending it to other people. It's just for your agency, right? So say you have a 50-person agency, and you say, right, Seb, we want to integrate Millee. Let's build our network intelligence layer. On onboarding, you'll say, this is exactly how we like to do resume submissions and interview debriefs. This is how we traditionally like to control candidates and our tone of voice as a business. And maybe even here are some of our playbooks. That's like the foundation. But then as you integrate and as you use the system over time, it will start to learn how you escalate when things go wrong, or how you close a difficult candidate specific to your business, so that you're basically productizing the knowledge of the founder and giving that to every single person bespoke to your agency. And as you maybe scale your business and look to exit that, and PEs come and say, well, what prop tech do you have? What unique stuff do you have? You'll say, well, my Millee AI tool is absolutely dialed in with our playbooks, and everyone performs at this level because we've productized our knowledge. And so that's the vision with our network intelligence layer as well.
Fantastic. So look, I mean, right now, you've got some incredible things there keeping you occupied. I want to kind of just finish on a note like if there's any recruiters out there that are, especially in my network, in our company's network, that are looking to start up by themselves, do something in terms of their own market, and they need the support and the understanding and the knowledge, like reach out to Sarah, look at the platform Generate, and if you have any questions, I'm sure I'll be happy to answer them and go through the motions with you. If you want to ask me, like feel free to reach out to me and I'll throw out an introduction to you. But for those, founders that are looking for support on, I ideally kind of getting to see what Millee's all about and how it can benefit the business, again, feel free to reach out. We're going to put all of your links in all the socials and, tag the companies in terms of their LinkedIn pages and whatever else you want. So we'll be able to make sure that whoever's tuning in and checking this out will be able to go to the right place.
Legend. Yeah, Elliott, thanks for having me on. And last thing I'll say as well, if you're a Brit that's recently moved over to America, you're looking to build out your expat network, it's a good community out here. So hit me up.
Absolutely.
I'd love to chat as well.
No, absolutely. Well, look, Seb, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for joining me on the Search podcast this week. And I'm really, I'm excited for you. I'm going to keep an eye out and I'm sure we'll be speaking very soon.
Thanks for your support, mate. Cheers.